Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spooky AF. My name is Rob. Today I'll be your host, and I'm joined by Suze, my co-host. How are you, Suze?
Hey, I'm great. I know I sent you a picture, but we haven't gotten to talk about it yet. I finally got to go to the Hellfire Club.
Yes, you did. That's right. How did you find it?
It was great. So it turns out one of my good friends from where I work now lives in Rathfarnham. So
Okay, very good.
So both of them, her and her partner, are only like a 10-15 minute drive kind of away from the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we went up there for a walk and got to go all around through it, and it was really fun. And it's like, I will say that like in broad daylight, the spookiest thing about it is like the tins left over by teenagers who were drinking up there the previous night.
Yeah. yeah. There's a lot of that.
But there were some like creepy candles in one of the fireplaces.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. I was like, ooh, this is spooky. And then it was just a reminder of like how tall my husband is, because he like hit his head on like every door.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a particularly big place, but no, it's a cool building. I'm glad you finally got to go to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be great. Like it would be super fun to do like a night recording there. Like that would be fun.
I would love to do that. And actually, on our on-site investigations, we've recently come into ownership of some microphones that we can use outside, some wireless mics. So watch that space. Suze and I will be able to go mobile soon.
What's funny is my friend was like, she's like, there's a really there's like an American ghost hunting show that did an episode out here, and I was like, oh my god, please be Ghost Adventures, because my stepdad and I used to watch that every fucking Friday. It was incredible. And because they were like super over dramatic and like, oh wow, like ghosts and stuff. And so they did, and I think it was that show, and they do an episode at the Hellfire Club where they say that like locals are like terrified to come up on the hill, which I thought was hilarious because we were one of like 25 people up there walking their dogs.
That's brilliant. I love that. I love how they've just completely, just shamelessly just been like, yeah, locals are afraid.
I was like I said, the only thing is like the local youths drinking up there at night that is like semi-frightening.
Yeah, and they're arguably more terrifying and dangerous than the fucking devil himself.
Oh yeah, I don't fear the devil playing cards with some like white men from the 1700s. I'm more worried about like a 15-year-old in a gray tracksuit and a skin fade like being drunk around me.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more. And yeah.
Or as my husband likes to call the grey tracksuit, the Dublin tuxedo.
It is. It very much so is. It's, look, they wear it with pride, unfortunately. And yeah.
And we all have to deal with their choices.
Yeah, well, anyway, let's move on. We don't need to be targeted.
Swiftly moving on.
Thankfully our listener numbers, we basically have no listeners in that age group, so we're safe for the moment.
Oh yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah. So, I'm going to get into today's episode, and I am going to start it off by saying I know what I'm about to share with you is bonkers.
I'm just going to say you have hyped this up to me so much that I honestly, I have no idea. Like, I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know. I just know I'm not prepared.
No, because I wasn't prepared. So, some slight background to this. I was looking up a completely separate topic. Like, not this topic at all. So this is a UFO topic.
Okay.
I was not looking at UFOs when I came across this.
Okay.
But I was so enamored by what I read, I basically just shelved what I was previously looking at and was like, this is going to be the podcast now.
Amazing.
So, also, and I said this to you before, Suze, I read this article and went, I don't need to read anything further on this. So today's episode is exclusively based off just one article.
That is so on brand.
I have done no further background reading to this. Basically... And you'll understand why once I get into it. But that's just to highlight to everyone that this is exclusively based off a single article, and I'm aware of how that sounds.
I am here for it. Let's do it.
Fantastic. So, Suze, have you ever heard of a magazine called The Flying Saucer Review?
Okay, I just took a drink of coffee and it went up my nose. No, I have not. Is it real?
It is real.
Okay.
So the Flying Saucer Review was established in 1955. And what we're talking about today is Volume 42, Number 3, specifically the Autumn 1997 edition.
Wait, there's 41 volumes before it?
Yes.
Okay.
And the headline that caught me is Woman Tries to Kidnap Alien.
Sorry. Did it happen in Florida?
No. So this is the funny thing. It's actually in Europe.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
So I was sitting looking at something else, came across this, and I was literally just like, my God. And it was almost like fate intervened and was like, no, here's your podcast episode.
Okay.
So when I read that headline, I was like, I need to know more. I need to know everything about this. And I badly need to find out if this woman actually did it or not.
Yes, I need to know everything about this.
So to start things off, I'm going to send you the cover art that was used for this specific story.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what middle schooler drew that?
So yeah, this is a woman approaching a very classic UFO, which has landed on the ground. There's a beam of light shining towards her, and there's two like grey aliens in spacesuits with antennas coming out the top of the helmets, just walking away from her.
Like, it looks like they're getting into one of those silver bullet, like RVs.
It does. So the headline and this art basically solidified this case for me. So yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot to unpack on this.
There's a lot to unpack there. Like, I need context. What's happening?
Grand. So to start things off, the full official title for this article is A Very Close Encounter. She Tried to Capture an Entity. And it's by Claude Raffi. So this is translated from French for the magazine.
Okay.
And the article opens with, I was talking about UFOs one day with a friend when he recalled and described to me an old and extraordinary case that he had got from a woman whom he knew. The story was indeed a highly interesting one with very special features that immediately aroused the ufologist in me. So I asked him whether she was still alive and where her home was.
Okay.
So it goes on to describe how this guy was so enamored with the story that he tracked down this woman in 1997, and she, at this point, was 82 years old.
Okay.
And as he said, she proved to be quite particularly precise and sure, with no useless digressions and an astonishing intelligence and liveliness of the mind.
It's a bit of a backhanded compliment, being like, yeah, she looks old as fuck, but she was surprisingly all there.
But, like, when I read that, I was like, that's weirdly French. Like, I'm imagining this, like, this has been translated from French. I'm like, that must translate differently.
Oh, maybe, people. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see it almost being a compliment for French people. Not to generalize on French people. Please keep listening to the story, French people. But, yeah. I'm not starting a war with France.
So this episode, we've already angered the French and the tracksuit-wearing population of Dublin.
Yes, and in our previous episode that we just recorded, you went to war with vegans.
I did. We are just burning bridges.
We've brought some energy to this that I wasn't expecting.
No, we woke up and chose violence.
Exactly. So the woman's story starts with, it was 9:30 p.m. one night in mid-February of 1956, and I was driving back alone in my car to Fresnes from Choisy-le-Roi along the 186. So she was visiting her parents there and was driving home afterwards. She says that she doesn't remember the exact date, but that she remembers she was 41 at the time.
Okay.
And that, interestingly, she was running a tannery business.
Oh.
Which, I'm all there for that.
Yeah.
Great. Just really interesting side note.
Yeah.
So she says that the roads back then were much narrower and like more kind of like country-esque, I suppose, is what she was going for. They're not as wide as they were today, is what she was saying. Mm-hmm. And so this whole area is just south of Paris, I believe. So she goes on to say, I was just about to start crossing the bridge over the number 7, which is the road. And on the left hand was an inn, which is gone now. And on the right, I had to pass up a slight incline. And it was at that point that I spotted something bright and shining, white, phosphorescent. She says then that there was a faint hissing noise that seemed to be kind of coming from the object. So she says it was suspended 20 centimeters or so off the ground, and it was above waistland, is what she remembers. So she goes on to say that she pulled up to get a closer look, and that she noticed a person near the object. And she decided to kind of drive a little bit up closer, and as she got closer, she said that the person was approximately 1.3 meters in height, which is quite short.
Yeah, I was like, that's
yeah, it's like 4'3".
Okay, yeah, that's a lot shorter than me.
Yeah, it's significantly shorter than you. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm still I don't function.
Yeah, so it's 4'3" in freedom units.
I don't function in the metric system very well, even fair. After all these years.
Yeah, 4'3" or 130 centimeters.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she immediately is like, okay, this doesn't seem right. And what she says was that what came into her mind after this then was thoughts of flying saucers, of which there had been like occasional talk in the newspapers in France at this point. And it occurred to her, wouldn't it be great if I was able to grab an alien and take him to the newspapers?
That's some energy there.
And a quote from her says, what a fine thing that would be for me.
Like, bully for me. Like,
yeah.
So she's essentially like working at the paper that Peter Parker works at, that's like constantly trying to get Spider-Man.
100%. Like, she's literally at the Daily Bugle. She's trying to...
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, her first thought... Okay, number one, her first thought, aliens. Okay, already a bit of a jump, but alright.
Yep.
Second, because I mean, it wouldn't be my first thought, but whatever. And then secondly, then thinking, you know what? I am going to take ownership of this and report it to the media.
Oh, 100%. And, like, I'm all there for this energy.
Does it kind of give off, like, okay, so I noticed that Gen Z has gone on, like, they've defined, have you seen this is a bit of a sidebar, but it makes sense to me, the girl they call the pick-me girl?
No, I
okay.
Never heard of
so
this.
you'll have known someone like this, but they're defining it as a girl, like the girl in school who was like, oh, I'm only friends with boys because, like, you know, boys are so much less drama and I don't wear makeup and like, you know, I'm making it like a thing. Yeah. So, but like part of it is like, oh, you know, like I'm the main friend in the friend group, and also I just imagine this woman being like, oh damn, well it makes sense that it would be me that would get the alien to the media.
You have no idea how spot on you are with this.
Oh, incredible. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off.
Oh no, absolutely not. This is what I'm here for. So she says, small and thin as the little chap appeared, he would not be very hard to carry. So she then decides, I know what's going to be amazing. I'm going to pull up here, I'm going to open the boot of my car, and I'm going to get it ready to dump this alien into it.
Oh my god.
So she says, enchanted with my idea, I proceeded to try to pull it off.
Okay.
So, like, can we just really appreciate, this woman is driving along this country road late at night. She sees what she thinks is a flying saucer hovering over some wasteland. And the first thought that comes into her mind is, I'm going to roll up here. I imagine she kills the lights as she, like, rolls the car up silently. Pops the boot.
She's got some real colonizer energy. Like...
She does. I'd also be very concerned if, like, she opens the boot of her car and she has, like, cable ties and duct tape in the boot.
Like she's got a kill kit.
Yeah. So she says, by now around the machine, there were 8 of them, engrossed in looking at something or something else on the ground. The thing had the shape of a flattened pumpkin with luminous facets that doubtless were windows, and I noticed 2 more of the beings inside the machine. The others outside seemed to be studying the waste ground there. So she's basically, like, rocked up on this UFO. There's a bunch of them standing outside looking at something on the ground, and she's immediately gone into, like, action mode. Yeah, she's basically brought the Florida energy to this.
Yeah, encounters of the French kind.
Yeah, she's on a different level to the rest of us.
She has a level of audacity that I respect.
The one kind of pass I'll give her is, this is 1956. She's 40 at this time. So this woman has lived through the Second World War. Like she's lived through German occupation. She probably fears nothing at this point.
She's seen some shit and like this is nothing.
So I'm going to send you a drawing that she did of the UFO and the scene that she had in front of her.
Okay, oh man, I'm glad she added like dimensions so you can get the scale. Like,
yeah, I knew you'd
that's
pick
the
up on
first thing I saw. I was like, oh, it's a math problem.
Yeah. So it's as she says, 10 meters across. It's hovering approximately 20 centimeters off the ground, which, by the way, phenomenal eyesight if you can tell in the dark from that far away. And yeah, it's as she described, it looks like a flattened pumpkin.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And there's just
see
a
that.
bunch of little lads all just hanging around outside it and inside
Short
it.
kings.
Yeah. Short kings. So yeah, so she sees it play out, and she's like, right, now's my time. I'm gonna basically make this happen. So she says that she starts to approach them, and some of the beings noticed her approaching and were immediately, as she says, they saw that she had no signs of fear as I was approaching them. But as she got closer, they ran away, as she said, as quick as rabbits, into an opening in the base of the craft.
Right.
So she says there was only one of them left at this point. And she says it just so happened to be the one that she was aiming to grab was the slow one.
It was the one with like a dump truck ass or something. Like
Yeah, basically, yeah. And he turned around, she says, and fixed his black eyes on her intensely, as if wanting to say something.
Uh-huh.
And then, so when you get to this point in the article, the author puts in a note just to say, I just feel it should be noted that this woman is an intrepid character. In her tannery, she used to employ a lot of prisoners from the close by jail. Huh. So this woman has no fear, basically, is what we've gotten from this.
I'm a little worried this woman might actually be, like, you know how, like, psychopaths have no anxiety?
Potentially.
Like, she's just incapable of feeling fear, and that she's looking for, like, a dopamine rush. She's like, well, I could speed down a highway, or I could fucking kidnap an alien.
Every time she wakes up, she's just like, today's a worthy day to die.
Yeah, yes. Make death proud to take me.
Yeah. So she goes on then to say that just as I thought I was about to get him, a beam of light shot out from one of the windows on the upper part of the machine and engulfed me and paralyzed me on the spot. I couldn't move any part of me except my eyes, and it was only then, for the first time, that I really began to be scared. I would like to think at this point, I wouldn't have even gotten to now before I would have been scared. I wouldn't have rolled up in my car and been like, one of them's going in my boot.
Yes! I was like, you were just like menacing a small creature.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, and then this is the moment you're afraid.
Yeah, when it backfires on her, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Really just, it encompasses that whole, like, the line, the witch, and the audacity of that bitch.
And the audacity of that bitch, yes. I'm just seeing her and almost being, like, pissed off scared in the light, though. Like, oh, fuck, I almost had it. Like,
in, like, a really French way, like, just really annoyed. Like, yeah, she's probably annoyed because she dropped her cigarette as well while she was doing this.
Okay, don't stereotype.
Her beret fell off in the commotion.
I'm imagining, like a glint in her eye that is, like, proper scary. Like, the kind of glint in her eye that, like, one of our coworkers once had that we used to talk about potentially being a psychopath. You know who I'm talking about. So, like that kind of glint.
Her eyes probably look like... Have you ever seen a video of sharks when a drop of blood goes on the water and their pupils just go pure black? That, yeah, 100%. She basically, like, saw her kill and was, like, going in for it.
Yeah.
So... because her plan backfires, now she's feeling afraid. So she says that while she's stuck in this tractor beam, basically, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
She says that she found it quite difficult to judge time.
Okay.
And that basically she has no idea how long this lasted, but that she was completely paralyzed, could only move her eyes. She says that once they all went into the machine, the brightness of the beam started to fade, and then she was able to effectively back away and escape to her car. So it seems to be that they noped out of there, hopped in their spaceship, and then as soon as they were like safe, they were like, yeah, just fucking let her go. We don't want that shit in here.
Well, it kind of surprised me she didn't have like a tow hook in the car, being like, I'll just take the whole fucking ship then. Like, sorry, now I have this image of like a small French car in the 50s going down the motorway with a ship floating behind it on a rope. Like
this old like Citroen or Renault car, like really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's just like oh, this would be a job for Dead Recovery, our dead ghost children.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, this is our sort
only
of job.
Real listeners will know the reference.
Yeah, we'll basically have like the ghost army on our side to take these lads.
Yes. I'm like, leave these short kings alone.
Yeah,
Woman, what are you doing?
They're just standing in a field.
They're just vibing, and they do not
need.
need you to harsh their mellow.
Yeah, exactly. So she says she got back to her car and then sat down in her car and just basically sat there waiting. And she says that she doesn't know if it was through fear or if she had been paralyzed again through some nefarious means, that she found that she actually couldn't move again. And she says at this time then, she started to hear a scraping noise, like a metallic scraping noise. And she basically associated that with the door of their vehicle closing. So I don't know if it's a case of they were concerned that she got back into her vehicle and they were like, maybe paralyze her again. Or,
okay, stay with me. Is the scraping sound a little bit like she smelled burnt toast? Is she having a stroke?
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
I have
like
nothing to say.
The paralyzing event? Like, yeah. I don't know, but...
There are no aliens there, actually. She's just sitting in a car park, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Possibly. It would be just on par for this woman, by the sounds of things, to just have a batch.
Yeah, I'm like, can she, like, is half of her face numb? Like, what is happening? Either that, or maybe she's fallen asleep and she's having, like, a sleep paralysis demon event. Like, what do they call hypnopompic hallucinations?
Oh, God. Could you imagine that? Yeah. Well, I guess she kind of deserves
it. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Her first thought is not, I'm going to drive away. It's, I'm going to kidnap one of them. So she says she ended up sitting there for about 10 minutes or so with her car parked on the grass verge beside the road. She said that all of a sudden she was overwhelmed with this desperate sense of anxiety.
Okay.
And that she needed to basically leave the area. But she says that the gears in her car wouldn't operate and she was basically completely unable to leave.
Yep.
So she says then the hissing noise from the machine became intensely louder and it slowly started to rise until it was at the height of the biggest trees there. Basically, the lads are getting ready to head off. She says the machine stopped momentarily and then took off at top speed. So she said that the craft initially was orange, but then as it sped off, it turned red as its speed increased. She says as soon as the craft left her sight, she was immediately able to start her car. And basically, she says panic had now caught up with her and she decided to turn back and return to her parents' house where she'd just previously been.
Well, now I'm not I'm either, like, I remain unconvinced that she either wasn't having a stroke or that she's like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer vampire who then just like suddenly got a soul, like, and started feeling bad about things. Like,
yeah. Possibly. Yeah, maybe. I'm really not sure where I come down on this woman yet.
I'm just asking questions.
I have no mistake that.
Like, oh, look, if it isn't the consequences of my actions. Like, that's what it sounds like she's saying.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Oh, I've pissed them off after trying to like, unwanted touch. Like...
She's basically become the embodiment of their fear of stranger danger.
Yes!
So she says she returns to her parents' house and she says she arrives there gasping and, as she says, poured out my whole story to them. So her father, after all of this, allegedly says to her, above all else, do not tell anyone about this. You have your job to think of. They'd all laugh at you and the police would just question and harass you. So just drop the whole thing.
I mean, that is some proper lived through both world wars, probably fought in the first one. Like,
we don't deal with
proper,
this.
Like, just push it down. Push it down. Like, no, we don't talk about this. Nothing happened.
100%. I that's exactly it. I think this is a man who has seen some shit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, I'm not dealing with this again. Like,
Yeah, like, it's every fucking day
exactly.
here lately. Like,
so she says, as a result, I never talked to anybody about it, apart from 2 or 3 persons that were very close to me. So, including the friend of the author. So,
bit of a shit friend.
yeah, 100%.
Went off and told the author.
So the author then says he basically assumed that her story was done, but he then says, without any prompting, she then went on to volunteer further information to him. Would you like to guess what the further information might be before I tell you?
Oh god, I honestly have no idea, but I want to know desperately.
So she goes, well, now, after all that, I found that I was no longer quite the same as I had been before. I was now more assured,
Okay.
even more intelligent.
What? Oh god.
Every time that I came to a crossroads when driving my car, I now knew what was going to come from other directions. Sometimes I would say to my husband, look out, there's a big truck, or a fast car is coming. That was before anything was to be seen, and I was right every single time. Sometimes, had we not slowed down, we would have had an accident. At the moment when danger looms, I get a little tickling feeling in the tips of my fingers. Also, I have premonitions in my dreams with exact scenes, places, and subsequently I encountered those precise places afterwards.
Okay. She is a main character energy, but I think might actually just be having severe sleep paralysis and a series of small strokes on the daily. Like, I think she's just having traumatic brain events.
Yeah. I don't know what's
Like,
happening to this woman.
I saw aliens.
Yeah, she saw aliens. She tried to kidnap one of them. And then when they got away, just out of sheer awe of her audacity, they were like, do you know what? We're going to turn you into an X-Men.
Yes, 100%.
You're now Jean Grey.
Except, I think it's kind of lame to be like, I get premonitions of traffic. like, is that it? You can't give me the Euro Millions numbers?
Maybe.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up additional powers.
Oh god.
So the author then says to her, like, look, is there any chance that the light beam from the craft like injured you in some way, and that this is kind of a result of it? And she goes, no, not at all. And then he says, well, have you had any other encounters or sightings of lights in the sky? So she kind of goes like, no, since then I've not seen anything. Like, I've not had any sort of encounters at all. The author then says, like, okay, well, what about these dreams? Like, you talk about these like premonitions that you have. Like, what goes on there? So he goes, have you ever dreamed about any of the entities, or like finding yourself in some like unknown brightly lit room, all the kind of that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
You know, the kind of abduction sort of stuff. Like, is she remembering? Mm-hmm. But she says, like, no, I've not had any dreams of any of that sort of stuff. I've not remembered stuff in subsequent years of stuff that might have happened to me. Basically, she says, if she got abducted, she has no memory of it, and she doesn't think it happened. And I think that's kind of what the author was trying to verify, is like, you know, was it the light beam that did it to you, or was it the fact that you were abducted and experimented on that did it?
Okay.
So before we kind of go on any further, I'll just give you her description of the aliens, or the beings as she calls them. So she says that they were all dressed in this greyish blue, tightly fitting, like, one-piece uniform, and they had large and quite like protubed black eyes.
Right.
Basically no nose, and their nostril holes were visible. They're classic like grey alien, basically.
I was like, they're classic grey alien with like the essence of Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly. And she says that they're very, very slim, and that she couldn't see any muscles on them, basically. She didn't get a good view of their legs, but she's sure that they had at least 2 arms longer in proportion that's normal. That's
Michael
normal,
Phelps.
and that their heads were proportionally bigger than ours, basically. So she's literally described a grey alien.
Yeah.
Like, perfectly. And yes, I got your Michael Phelps comment. Yeah, very much so. If Michael Phelps was an alien. So, a bit mad, but she then goes on to basically repeat after all this description. She goes, what I've just told you is all real, and I have added nothing to it.
Oh, yeah.
So the author kind of like thanks her, and then kind of says then he wants to go off and like verify her story with other people. So he goes off and compares all the points in her story with the version that she had given to his friend a few years after the occurrence. And
So he's like a cop and like making sure all the stories line up?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to do some like good journalism here, where he's like trying to verify what she's saying.
Right.
So he goes off, finds the friend, and that basically says, like, what's going on here? Is this all correct? And the guy goes, yeah, everything is exactly as she said to me, except for one point. And the friend thought that she had told him that the beings had jumped into the craft, like jumped up into the craft, like quite a height. But that was the only difference. So when he went back to her to ask her, like, about this point about jumping, she said no, they hadn't jumped, that they were moving quite fast, but she didn't think that they jumped. So then he verified with the same guy as well, the description of the craft, if it was like that kind of flattened pumpkin shape, it all checked out. So, and she said as well that the craft itself, the color of it when it was like hovering was this like metallic gray, and then when it obviously started to fly away, it turned orange, and then it turned red. So the author then, in some spectacular investigation, decides, okay, I'm going to go off and go to the nearby airport and basically see if there's anything that happened at that time. So he goes to the archives for the airport, and he finds an important case from the time. So it's not the exact time that she says, but it's in the same area, and there was a craft seen. So it was in February 1956. So the same year, but just not the same like month, basically. And there was an object that was seen hanging stationary above the airport and was there for quite some time before it flew away. Now, the woman in the story says that her craft was about 10 meters in diameter, but in the airport, they said that the craft that they had seen was twice the size of a normal aircraft for that period. So significantly bigger than 10 meters in diameter. So, but I just found it interesting that there was an account from the same year in the same place of another craft scene at the same, like, kind of similar enough sort of vibe. Enough. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so then there's a few additional parts to it, basically saying that, you know, this craft was seen, a radar operator saw it, multiple staff members saw it, that it basically like floated down slowly above the airport, stayed there for a little bit, and then flew off at like mad fast speeds, basically. There was also then another encounter with a plane flying out of Paris to London, where again, a craft very similar to what the woman had described flew up beside a plane, similar enough circumstance, kind of hung around a bit and then flew off again. And crucially this time, it had a reddish colour to it as it flew away. So kind of matches up a little bit with what the woman was saying. So that kind of concludes the story, except for just one final point, which I have to just include. So this is a note by the editor of the journal. Yeah. Right? And of the Flying Saucer Review of the whole magazine. So he says, in an accompanying letter, the author gives more details about this 82-year-old French lady. He says that she still looks astonishingly young, and that he's suggesting that this may have been due to her extraordinary contact. Okay. He thinks that she looks significantly younger than she is, and then makes notes that she has a husband who's 35 years younger than her. Okay. She still frequently goes on long car drives of over 1,000 kilometers without stopping, and has a marked capacity for clairvoyance and precognition. And they just wanted to note that as a final point. They just wanted to... Okay, again, her premonitions are of traffic, so I guess the 1,000-kilometer car rides make sense. They give her a chance to express her gifts. She's basically the first version of Tesla Autopilot. Yes, she is. And, also, Yep. Fuck society's ideas of what a woman's prime is. If she can date somebody 35 years younger than her, then more power to her. I am interested to see, they say significantly younger. I wish they'd given us a ballpark age. I would have loved it as well. That's all they give us. Yeah. We don't have anything else from it. Is it like vampire she looks, she looks, 30, or is it just she looks good for someone who doesn't have her original hips? Potentially. It's tough to say. I think it's more the fact that they just say that she looks astonishingly young. So I don't know. Maybe her aging was slowed down or something. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. Or she just had she just had good skincare routine. I was just about to say, or she has some mad skincare routine. She's using some glycolic acid, some retinol. She's on that alien shit. Yeah, for sure. But that concludes the story. Well, that was fucking bonkers. It's the character of her that is the most interesting of this whole thing. I knew you'd love her. I'm sorry.
ooh, aliens, go get me one. Like, it's kind of like some hillbilly, like, behavior.
Running up to them with like a burlap sack, being like, get in the back.
Yes! Yes! Like, put it in the boot.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's also weird to think of, like, aliens in the French countryside.
Oh, 100%,
Because it's,
yeah.
like, they're, like, because of the popularity of the story, like, they seem at home in, like, the American Southwest.
No, absolutely not.
But, like, if you're talking about, like, just outside of Paris, like, you don't really think of extraterrestrials.
Although I did recently just discover that Ireland has the most UFO sightings in all of Europe, followed by France.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so France is a bit of a hotbed, I believe, for UFOs, but it's just mad. So when I read the story initially, I was like, all right, she's going to try to kidnap an alien. I did not see that coming, but then it was the follow-up of, but they also gave her powers.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, I was like, yeah, did they just respect the audacity?
Yeah, they basically like were like, do you know what? You deserve this.
Yeah. Here's
You
some
got
powers.
enough shit going on. Here's some powers. By the way, you're not going to age, and your husband is going to be like fucking 35 years younger than you.
Yeah, your husband's not born yet. Congrats.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because she's 82, so that means her husband is 47.
Jesus.
So this woman knows what she's about. Like she's here for she's here for a good time.
That's not even cradle robbing at that point. That's like generational plunder. like what cultural touchstones
Yeah, like
do they
she's
share?
part of she would be the silent generation, I guess. And her
this
husband is
bitch
a
does
boomer.
not this bitch does not strike me as anything but like to do with silence.
Oh no, she'd be the greatest generation, wouldn't she?
Maybe one of those.
But yeah, her husband is like 2 generations separated from her.
Yeah, like oh god.
That concludes my story for today, Suze.
Well, that was about as you know, as expected from a one article.
Hopefully I didn't
dive.
oversell it to you.
No, you did not. That was super weird and very funny. And yeah, I mean, I just think we need to. She both intrigues and frightens me as a character.
Yeah, 100%. She's terrifying. Like she is terrifying.
Yeah, like imagine being a passenger in that car and her just being like, "I'm gonna get it,"
Yeah.
and you're like, "What?" Like, whoa.
Blasting through stop signs because she's like, no, my fingers didn't tingle. We're all
Yeah,
good.
exactly. And you're like, whoa. Like you're holding on to like the door.
She actually
the door
speeds
like
up.
handle thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
She turns and looks
We're
at
just
you
gonna
and
miss it.
goes,
It's gonna be amazing.
yeah, she just turns and looks at you. Today's a good day to die in Valhalla.
I live, I die, I live again.
Yeah.
As she sprays her mouth with chrome. And you're like, we were just supposed to go to the grocery store.
Yeah, she's quite the woman. She's quite the formidable force.
Oh, God.
And I hope you can understand now why I completely just shelved the other story I was looking at.
Some things just, they speak to us, and that she spoke to us.
She spoke to me on a level that I was not expecting.
Yep. That's some real nihilist 2024 energy going on in 1950s France.
It is. And I've chosen not to look up anything else about this woman because I don't want to find out that she like died or something, or in my head she's still alive.
Oh yeah, she's still alive, she's still speeding through red lights and
Yeah, it's just mad. But I hope you enjoyed this very logical story.
I did. That was really fun. Like, I just have this image of, like, this poor little alien in the boot of her car. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Kicking and screaming, basically being like, no.
Yeah. And her driving straight to the newspaper office.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Looky here.
Yeah, that concludes it. I'd just like to close with a comment that I saw on Reddit describing this. This brave woman out there attempting a reverse alien abduction. Kudos for trying.
She's being really subversive here, and like she's reclaiming power.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's basically the embodiment of, I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked
in here with me. Yes. Like, I woke up again today and I'm going to make it everybody's problem.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that's it. I hope everyone listening to this has enjoyed the insanity that was this case. I have no idea how I'm going to edit this. And if you'd like to reach out to us with your own stories of alien abductions or sightings or anything else paranormal, you can get us on Instagram at the spookyaf pod, or you can email us at gmail at the spookyafpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. I am still trying to form my own thoughts on this, so hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I'll have some thoughts on the whole thing. But yeah, with that said, I hope you all have a lovely day or weekend, whenever it is you're listening to this, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.
Bye, guys.